Good morning, 8th graders. It's Tuesday, January 25th, and today, this latest episode of the PSSA English Grade 8 Help with the PSSA questions features some questions that ask you to go back into the text and asks you to understand some more about the author's purpose. But I'd like you to look closely at this question because it is totally worded so that it is completely a different set of understanding in the question itself and what we are expected to do. So the author is doing several things for us. In this case, we're on question 4, where we are being asked to describe in the passage, what does the author include in the passage to disprove a theory? Now, the answer is D, but I want to remind you about what you notice with all the quotes. So what they did is they put the answer clear at the end, and they are all direct quotes from the piece. So if you haven't read the piece very well, this could be a question that could throw you off because these are things that were in the passage. So what does the author include in the passage to disprove a theory? So the first statement says new humpback moms rarely rest with such young calves in tow. So my teammate John Caesarea and I know this is a moment not to be missed. That doesn't sound like we're disproving a theory. The second one says we've already spent an hour with this pair following from our research boat at a discrete distance, plotting their movements, dive patterns, and surface activity. That just tells what they did. Again, not disproving a theory. C says to get the full perspective, we need to see the underwater portion so that in mind, we gently push away from the side of the boat. And again, we're not disproving a theory, they're just telling what they did. But if you take a look at D, you'll notice that it's totally different. It starts with the word however. However, as it turns out, even the smallest calves are thermoneutral, generating enough metabolic heat to keep them toasty warm. This is the only place that we understand that we're hearing some scientific wording. So let's go back to the question. It says, which sentence does the author include in the passage to disprove a theory? And if you notice, out of all the choices, D is the only one that gives us scientific information, and it actually talks about the calves themselves and not something that the researchers were doing. A, B, and C all talked about the researchers doing things. Now, if we go on to the next question is what we talked about last week with evidence-based selected response questions. So I'm going to skip over those since we have already spent some little bit of time with selected response, or what we call the part 1, part 2 questions. And I'm going to go to another type of question that we will in the next passage. So in this one, what they did is they switched you from a piece of nonfiction about the whales to a piece of fiction, Icarus and Daedalus, and this is from the Greek myth. So you're being asked to read something very different, and this is a passage in the poem, and expected to answer questions about Greek mythology. So this will take, and then there, of course, here's the poem Icarus. So they're doing two things to you here. And we will talk next week about how we tackle when we have a Greek myth here, and then they're asking you to answer questions on both the Greek myth, and then they are asking you to compare and talk about a poem that is in relationship to it. So the questions that we will start with in the text-dependent prompt is we are going to move you into answering questions and into writing a TDA. So without too much more into that, next week we'll talk about how to structure a TDA, how to put it into something that you can actually write quite a bit, and how you can go back through and find good text evidence, and that's what it means. You have to go back here into this poem, and you have to go back here into this Greek myth, and you have to pull information into your answer. The better you can do that, the better the answer is, and the better that you're able to answer the question. So we will look at, I will show you guys how to start to map out a good text-dependent analysis, and this writer's checklist is only a piece and a part of that. So that's it on today's PSSA tips. We will look at TDAs next week.